InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Walter Pershke. Welcome, Walter.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. I've actually been a fan of the monthly Aspectarian magazine for a number of years. Walter is the publisher of the monthly Aspectarian, which is America's oldest spiritual and metaphysical magazine. Walter is also a metaphysical professor. He writes, teaches, and speaks frequently on metaphysical subjects and is a popular guest speaker at conferences and seminars. Well, some of our audience may not be familiar with the monthly Aspectarian. Why don't you tell our audience, the various types of articles and sections, etc., that you have in your magazine?
We tend to cover the spiritual world itself and the metaphysical world fairly heavily. We report on current events in the field, and we also have regular columns. Columns on, we have one called About Town, Around Town, which focuses on events that have happened recently.
Okay.
I do a publisher's letter on a regular basis, and we also have columns on, we have a teenage column.
Oh, that's great.
My spiritual journey, written for teenagers by teenagers, and we're actually looking for a couple of teenage columnists to write about their spiritual journey at this point.
And how many years ago did you start the Teenage Columnist?
About a year ago. About a year ago. That's a new feature.
Okay. Now, your claim is the oldest spiritual and metaphysical magazine. When did you start?
1979. We did an intensive search, could find nothing even close to that age, nothing within about 10 years of that age.
Now, do you publish outside of the Chicago area?
Yes, we do. We're distributed in Milwaukee and southern Wisconsin, as well as Indianapolis, Bloomington, Terre Haute, and northern Indiana. Okay.
And you also are starting out an online presence with the monthly Aspectarian?
Yes, we have. It's just the monthly Aspectarian.com. And the full magazine is on the website. So those people that aren't in the distribution area at the present time can get it online. Okay.
And what led you to become the publisher of the monthly Aspectarian?
I worked with Guy Spiro, who was the previous publisher until he died in October of 2011. And I had worked with him for 3 or 4 years. His widow tried to keep it going but was unable to do so, and I took over the magazine in June of 2012 because I felt it's really a labor of love. It's something that I think is important in the community, makes a good contribution, and gives people an opportunity to write about things that interest them.
I just assumed you were the founder.
No, I'm not.
What did you used to do before you became the publisher?
I was actually in the investment markets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully this is a prudent investment for you. Okay. And so what is your current vision for the magazine?
We're planning to expand the distribution area into other states. We've been invited to go especially east, and we will do that, but we'll do it at a gradual pace so that we incorporate the areas. Like right now, we're still developing Indianapolis.
Okay. And what do you think is causing a larger market for the monthly Aspectarian?
The growth in spirituality, actually. People are very interested in their spiritual well-being, and they really don't know where to go. We see that a lot. There's been a shift even in the last year, where people, the questions have changed.
Can you give us an example
Sure.
of how the questions have changed?
The questions used to be more on a question of more philosophical. Why am I here? What's the nature of being? What do I do? What's my path?
Mm-hmm.
And that shifted last year into, what do I do with the people in my life that don't get what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty significant shift, and so that's because people are more aware.
And how do you answer a question like that? Or who answers a question like
Well,
that?
I answer that in many of my classes, and I tell people, the fact is that when you're on a spiritual path, you will lose friends. Mm-hmm. And that won't be a confrontation.
Well, you can't lose family members. What happens there?
Sometimes there's a little internal discussion about that, and it can be heated. But people just kind of fall away. The nice thing is that you have hundreds of new people coming into your life that are on a similar path, perhaps at different places, but they're all headed in the same place.
Now, when I did the intro, I mentioned how you're a popular guest speaker at conferences and seminars. Where are some of the conferences you speak at?
Well, I spoke in Milwaukee yesterday at the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo. Mm-hmm. The week before, I spoke at the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo in Chicago. I had 2 presentations there. They've been very supportive of what we're doing, and I taught a class at Infinity Foundation.
Okay. And what did you speak at the expo about?
Yesterday, I talked on how to manifest your dream, whatever your dream is. And the week before that, I talked on metaphysical dream interpretation.
And can you refine how to manifest your dream to 100 words or less?
Probably not, but let me try.
Okay.
Right now, in the spiritual world, it is a prime time to manifest whatever it is you want to manifest. We manifest, we create, whether we're aware of it or not, and most people do it unconsciously, and they bring unpleasant things into their life. When you shift to doing it consciously, through techniques like meditation, positive prayer, visioning, affirmations, you then tend to bring in a much higher level of consciousness for yourself and a much higher level of manifesting for yourself as well.
Well, if you look at some of the great spiritual leaders like Mahatma Gandhi or the Reverend Martin Luther King, they were also very politically and socially involved for equal rights or working for freedom. How does a person balance those two? Because you've got to be very strong and out there, and actually both of them, both Gandhi and the Reverend Martin Luther King, were nonviolent, and yet they were the victim of violence. How does one reconcile, a spiritual path and a political and a social path?
Good question.
Yeah.
I think it can be done by raising the consciousness level of humanity. You will get to a certain level where all the problems actually go away. Because when people arrive at a certain level of consciousness, they don't commit crimes, they don't burden poor people, or the starvation and hunger basically go away. There's no shortage of food in the world. There's a shortage of political will to get the food to the right places.
And it's very, very well put. Also, I think of the Dalai Lama, he had a fight to retire. He would get up at 4 a.m. and do his spiritual practices for 3-4 hours before he'd start a very long and tedious day, doing his political stuff in an attempt to free Tibetans. So again, it's like you're walking these two seemingly divergent paths.
You're right, they are divergent, but they're merging.
Yeah.
Now, whether they merge or not in our lifetime or not, I can't say, but they are definitely merging.
Okay. Well, and there has been a shift in consciousness, at least with food, and then when people change their diet, I think it naturally changes their their attitude or view of the world. Can you say a few words on that? Does your magazine touch on dietary issues at all?
We don't touch much on it other than in a historical sense. But the other issue that is profoundly changing is gay rights. I mean, that's a huge shift in consciousness that would have been difficult to predict 10 years ago.
And I agree, and the fact that gays and lesbians can marry now
Yes.
legally
Yes.
and
Yes.
get all the rights and privileges associated with that.
But you have an element in our society that's, I think, what would be called retro, that wants to return to the good old days. And the fact is, the good old days weren't all that good. and we're moving forward at a very rapid pace right now.
And do you ever get into, say, political discussions in your magazine? Not necessarily for or against a particular politician or party, but using the spiritual awareness and consciousness to improve the politics of today.
I do sometimes in my publisher's letter, yes. We try to avoid strictly political issues, but sometimes from a standpoint of an overview, the big picture. I wrote an article last year basically saying what was coming, what our future held. And that
The future of the magazine, or
no, the future
American,
of the world,
yeah,
the future of America.
yeah.
Yeah. And I said in that letter that we're in for a prolonged time of political upheaval, but it will be resolved.
I hope you're right. Do you have any idea how long this political upheaval is going to go on?
I think we've got another year or two to go.
And so, keeping the faith.
Yes, yes.
And so, can you talk a little bit about like the metaphysical practices that are written about in your magazine, Monthly Aspectarian?
Well, various forms of healing would be a major topic. We try to cover many different areas, and I don't like to mention a couple because there's dozens of them that are very very popular.
Would they be like some physical things, such as like massage therapy or aromatherapy?
Yes, those would be included, and there's what's called energy healing.
Okay.
Where people are using energy that may or not touch the body, usually doesn't touch the body, but works on releasing blockages.
There's been several energy healers as guests on this show, like Reiki or therapeutic touch.
Yes. Those are all good practices. The thing is, what the public needs today is to release the past and to kind of welcome the future and shift into that consciousness. The past does not hold the answers to our future.
And so, talk a little bit about, because we're all on a personal path, and then we're on a path collectively.
Yes.
And so people, in my experience, who are on a spiritual path, they put the needs of the group or others before their own selves.
Yes. And the power of the group really magnifies the individual effort. I do a group meditation on a weekly basis, and let's say there's 20 people there. Someone practicing at home, and it's important to practice at home, to do your own meditation, but in the group, with 20 people, you probably have 50 times the power of the individual meditation.
And how would one go about measuring the power of a group of meditators?
Through healing, through the results.
Yeah.
Very practical aspect.
Are you familiar with Dr. Daniel Amen?
No, I'm not.
Oh, he's a neuropsychiatrist who uses nuclear medicine to take pictures of the brain. And so he scanned the brains of people who were meditating 25 years or longer. And there was this hot spot or focal point that showed up in the brain, and then the doctors immediately dubbed it called the God spot. And it's in the right temporal lobes of the brain. And I look at the God spot as like, if I was right-handed and did everything with my right arm, my right bicep and forearm would be bigger than my left.
Yeah.
And I think if we use this region of the brain associated with God and meditation more than other parts of the brain, of course it would show up as a heavily utilized portion of the brain.
Yes, and when you meditate and when you do what are called grounding exercises, which connects you to the earth, it gets very difficult to become ill.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the advantages of raising your consciousness level.
And so when you have a staff meeting at the monthly Aspectarian, is everybody meditating there together to raise the consciousness?
No. It's more of a creative endeavor. It's a visioning session normally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's just a high energy experience. It's
Okay.
a different, but everybody meditates on their own.
Yeah, and now I interviewed a guest, Linda Kroll, who's a social worker, a lawyer, a writer, a public speaker, and she set up for Valentine's Day a group meditation all across the world through the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried that with the monthly Aspectarian? Where
Not yet, but it's in the drawing board segment.
Great. Now you're also, well, let me ask you a personal question. How did your own personal spiritual journey begin, and how?
I was getting married for the second time.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it began in college, but then I got away from it. I got very involved in the business world and got away from it. And my wife and I were both among the many recovering Catholics in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to a Catholic church, and they had this long list of things you had to do to get married. We were both living downtown. I went to a very prominent church downtown, and it was a shorter list, but still a list. And then she said, "There's this new thought church, and why don't we go there and see what they've got to say?" We went there. I loved the message because it was non-judgmental,
Mm-hmm.
and went to visit the minister, asked him to marry us, and he said, "When do you want to get married?" And we said, Saturday, June 7th. He said, "What time?" We said 7 o'clock. And he said, "Well, I'm doing a wedding at 5 o'clock on June 7th, and on Sunday, June 8th, I'm retiring and moving to Colorado.
Oh, wow.
So yes, I can marry you at 7 o'clock." And I said, "We're in the right place." It just flowed.
Yeah.
And when you're in that flow, that athletes call that in the zone. It's the same concept.
Now, do you meditate with your partner, with your wife, ever together?
Well, no, because I'm not married at the present time.
Okay.
But otherwise, that would be a possibility. Yes.
Yeah, it's a powerful to
It
meditate
is.
with your friends
It
and
is.
family
It
members.
is.
You know, I tell parents to do it with their children.
Kids pick it up very quickly.
Yeah.
Kids are marvelous.
Yeah, and I think it has to do, in part, because of their brain, because there's a longitudinal study done, with
Mm-hmm.
young children to older adults, and young children are more hypnotizable, more suggestible. So we lose that ability as we age. But my belief is if we could maintain that ability to relax, to meditate, to calm the body and the brain down, we'll age more slowly and more gracefully.
I had a mother that came to me, and she started by saying, "I can't meditate." Joined the meditation group. 6 months later, she brought her 15-year-old daughter, who had never meditated.
Okay.
After the meditation, she's describing her experience. And I said, "Do you know what you're describing?" And she said, "No, what?" I said, "You had an out-of-body experience in the meditation." She was floating around the room, and I said, "Did you look down on yourself?" And she said, "No, I got afraid and closed my eyes." But at 15, she's having an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, I just read an article online about how this woman could easily go into out-of-body experiences. So they hooked her brain and body up to medical devices, and they looked at the changes that occurred. It was pretty fascinating, and they showed the pictures.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a good example of the power of the collective.
Yes, very much.
Now, is there particular meditation techniques you suggest, or you just want people to get quiet?
Well, no. I think guided meditations are a good place for people to start.
Okay.
In all of my meditations now, I include activating the chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your chakras are activated, it's increasingly difficult to become ill.
Mm.
It's also a grounding exercise. It connects you to the earth.
Is it possible for you to do a little bit of this exercise with the chakras now?
I think it would take too long.
Okay.
I think it would take, but I think it would take too long.
Oh.
Next time we'll start with that.
Well, and people can always look you up and
Sure.
take one of your classes, whether it be at Infinity, or you're also, you founded the Spiritual Learning Center.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
I founded that 8 years ago because I felt there was really a need. There was no place someone could go and get a comprehensive program, which touched all the bases. And that has been, I think, pretty successful because it brings people together of a like mind.
What city is this?
Right now, it's actually, it's not freestanding. We're looking for a permanent location. We teach at various places. I'm teaching at a place called Crystal River Gifts in South Elgin, the end of April, doing a class called The Journey of the Soul. And so
There's a book by that name.
Is there?
Yeah, by Michael Newton.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, so.
Yeah, well, it's about reincarnation and
Okay.
the various stages that the soul goes through. And,
Yeah. It's fascinating stuff. It really is fascinating.
Now, does your monthly Aspectarian get into reincarnation at all?
Not too much, but not by choice. We would be very interested in an article on reincarnation.
Okay.
You know.
All right. And so what are some of the classes you personally teach?
Well, the most popular classes are the dream interpretation.
Okay.
And I taught that recently at the ARE Foundation, the Edgar Cayce Group.
Yeah.
The Metaphysical Jesus, which is really a metaphysical interpretation of the New Testament, which I taught at the Infinity Foundation. Mm-hmm. And a class called The Way of the Mystic, which is how to access your higher self. And people are always surprised when they find they, in fact, can access their higher self.
Now, when people take your dream class, are they coming there with specific dreams they're looking for?
Yes, the class usually runs 4, sometimes 6 weeks, and it builds. People, initially it's mostly lecture, and by the time we get to the 3rd week, it's mostly dream interpretation.
Okay. Now, do you believe it's possible to kind of create your dreams at night while you're sleeping?
Yes, but it's not a good idea.
Okay.
We have a dream cycle. We have a sleep cycle and a dream cycle, mm-hmm. and it's best to let that to nature and not try to interfere with that, because there are functions of dreams that we're not really aware of. It's almost like in part of that, it's like cleaning your computer. You're cleaning. Our minds are very similar in many ways to a computer, and there's one function of that. And you don't want to disturb that.
And well, besides interpreting a dream, do you think we can manipulate the dream so that we can understand it better, or make the dream go in the direction of our choice?
I wouldn't change the direction of the dream, but interpreting it, understanding it better. I tell people, if you get a dream that you don't understand, everyone has spirit guides. Most people are not aware of them. They are here to help us, but you need to initiate the conversation. Okay. And so before you go to sleep, say, I got that dream last night or last week, and I didn't understand it. Please give it to me in a different form, and it will come to you in a different form.
Ask and it shall be given to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what's the most common dream people come to you with, or they ask you to help interpret?
Wow. I would say that is typically a dream of an opportunity for higher consciousness. A common theme in dreams is water. Water is the metaphysical symbol for consciousness. So people get dreams with water because it's telling them they need to raise their consciousness. That usually it usually starts out in a pleasant way, but then sometimes comes into flooding.
Okay. And then what about like falling dreams? You hear a lot about those.
Well, falling is about letting go of the past,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody dies in a dream. That's one of the common misconceptions. Nobody really dies in a dream, and if you're falling, enjoy the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy the ride, because nothing's going to happen, other than it's telling you to let go and let the spirit come in.
Yeah. And what about sleep? What are the positive and the negative influences of dreams on sleep?
Well, there's a dream type called anxiety dreams. That is usually something that's very current in a person's life today, yesterday, but very recent in terms of days, where you're processing something in your dream that you're not processing in your waking life. It's better to process it in the waking life.
That's well stated. Can you restate that? Because that's brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anxiety dreams are usually a reflection, almost invariably, of something that has happened very recently, and you're not processing it in your waking life, and so it pops into your dreams.
Yeah. And what happens? People say, I'm so busy, I don't even have time to process. I remember a psychiatrist saying, he got the idea to write his book, and his best ideas when he was in the bathroom. He says, that's the only time I ever had alone to think.
Well, yes. And there are people that say they don't dream, but you do dream. You just don't remember your dreams.
Yeah. Now, do you recommend people do anything prior to sleep so that they can have a good sleep and good dreams?
Good question. Yes. Yeah. One of the things that's lacking in our civilization today is the use of ritual. Mm-hmm. And rituals are very simple. Look at what do people do with kids before they go to sleep? They give them a bath and they read a story. That's a ritual. It sets the tone for sleep. With adults, the bath may work. The story probably won't, although sometimes. But a cup of chamomile tea is something that helps to set the tone that you're ready for sleep.
And prayer or meditation?
You can meditate. Some people meditate and puts them to sleep, and that's fine. It just relaxes them.
Well, I usually pray, and then I do just be conscious of my breath, and I kind of breathe myself to sleep.
Breathe yourself to sleep. If it works, it's what you should do.
Well, you got about 20, 30 seconds. Anything you want to say in that brief time?
Well, it's hard to cover heavy-duty metaphysical in 20 or 30 seconds, but I think I would welcome people to any of my classes who are searching and looking for answers and they're not finding them.
And I'd also recommend the monthly Aspectarian.
Thank you.
Because it's a wonderful resource. For more information about Walter Pershke, Infinity Foundation, Inner Quest Talk Show, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good fortune, and good spirits. Thank you very much, Walter.
Thank you.
Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.